In this panel dedicated to the topic of Belarus, it sounds the innovation in the face of tyranny, Belarusian civil society. We have today the wonderful representative of the very civil society in question. We have Tsimafei and Natallia, who represents the Honest People initiative organization that has been from the start involved in everything that was going on, and now doing the amazing thing. So they will be the great reference point to talk about how the campaigns and engagement changed and what's going on now. And we also have Mike, who will represent the future, hopefully, of our entire movement, who will speak from the perspective of digital tools and how the technology could be used to actually use the horizontal connection and to stir and engage communities. My name is Alexandra. I'm the head of public outreach at the office of Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya. My job is basically has always been to make sure that the office and the political body has a connection to the people. Because in September, Sviatlana and the team went to exile, September 2020, and obviously it's a challenge always for everyone to remain in touch with real people. So that's been my job and job of my team, actually, to make sure those connections remain, to help the societies and communities and organizations actually to develop and to strive, to contribute to capacity building, but for all really engage people in the decision making, in policy making, and generally in mobilization. We will start today with a short video, which was produced by our organizers with the help of Honest People. This is very emotional, but also important tribute to the activists, to all those Belarusians who, after almost 2 years, continue to actually to fight for the cause, to fight for the freedom. And in our case, these are not abstractions; that are very tangible things for people who want change, who voted for change, and who have not received what they voted for.
But this is from Quran. It is and be committed to be happy in your country. Lukashenko claimed a landslide victory, sparking the biggest protest in Belarus's modern history.
Belarusian warplane armed to the teeth was dispatched.
For a Ryanair plane was diverted to Minsk.
Homes of dozens of journalists and activists in at least 9 cities were raided.
One of Belarus's leading opposition figures sentenced to 14 years in prison.
At the forefront of election protests, Maria Kolesnikova has now been jailed for 11 years.
We really tired of you. We're really very angry. Please leave us. We just want freedom.
The head of a group helping people to flee Belarus was found hanged in a park in the early hours of this morning.
More than 35,000 people have been detained there this year for protesting, and some have been tortured.
Lukashenko recently admitted that many who were arrested then have been tortured.
I have to help my country and bring the truth to people. It's a place where I belong, and I want to go home.
We fight for our future, for future of our children. Who else?
Not me.
Well, actually, a small editorial remark. Viktor Babarika, who was one of the candidates, he got actually 18 years of prison, not 14. So maybe before we start and actually have some time for presentation, I will make a very loose recap what happened, because obviously the time has fled. Not everybody reading about Belarus. We know we are not in the center of the world. However, what's been happening over the last almost 2 years. So if we go back May 2020, there are new runners up, new candidates appear, and people openly say that they will run for the presidency. What's very distinguished about that here and that period is that the main runners-up are the people not from the opposition, but actually people who represent very different groups of people and are amazingly popular. That was Viktor Babarika, Valery Tsepkalo, and Sergei Tsikhanouskaya. None of them were actually get a chance to run for the presidency. They were refused the registration, and Viktor Babarika and Sergei Tsikhanouskaya were detained even before the election campaign began. There were a few days left before the official registration, and Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya, the wife of Sergei Tsikhanouskaya, went and decided to register to run instead of her husband. And by absolutely amazing sort of circumstances, she actually was registered, because our president and our country is very masculine driven, and our ex-president believes that women have no shot in the politics, which probably was also the reason why they gave a shot to Tsikhanouskaya, which was his biggest mistake, because then the Tsikhanouskaya became the single candidate. It means that the former headquarters of Babarika and Tsepkalo team decided to join the forces and to present the single candidate, and that was Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya. Over the course of the summer, she gathered rallies all across the country and was increasingly getting the support of the public. And then 9th of August, the election has happened. There was actually, that attracted a huge amount of independent observations, different mechanisms to actually observe the results of the elections. The honest people will tell that in the detail. They were falsified, and that was obvious to everybody because people were in the polls. The votings were transparent. Many reports were falsified, or even the polling stations refused to show the results. So people were actually, they knew for sure this time the elections were rigged. And this what triggered the mass protest, not only in Minsk, as it used to be before, but all across the country. The 9th and 10th of August, thousands of hundreds of people on the street. That was followed with absolutely unprecedented violence, police brutality and violence. People were detained, and they shortly followed absolutely horrible reports of the torture. The people were not just, kept in bad conditions, they literally were tortured. And that was a breaking point because it felt like the violence could stop the thing, but then thankfully to the group of women, very shortly, on the 12th of August, different group of women gathered around Minsk in white, dressed in white, and they reversed the logic of the protest back to the peaceful direction, very openly showing that this protest is not about some kind of marginalized community who only wants violence, that this is about people's vote, it's peaceful, it's for everyone. And this amazing step, this amazing shift to this women protest gave rise to the so-called Sundays protests, which started first on the 15th of August and continued almost to the end of October, where every single Sunday, people in Minsk, but also in other regions, were marching out to the streets, and that gathered hundreds of thousands of people weekly. Unfortunately, the more time passed, the more repressive machine, started to exercise all its powers. You have some numbers here, and this is just a loose understanding that really just in 2020, more than 30,000 were detained. This detentions continues. We have more than 5,000 criminal cases, and in Belarus, criminal case nowadays could be considered anything from the comment in Facebook to wearing the white, red, white socks. So the criminal offense has become everything. The people would be tracked by the camera, kidnapped from their homes. And so that's just got tougher and tougher and tougher. So that's fair to say that by December 2020, the mass protests became increasingly insecure. However, the people continue the fight. It turned a lot into the partisan resistance, but also the yard or neighborhood communities would continue their operations. And there started to appear new forms of resistance, like cyber partisans, for instance, or this community, gatherings. What is very crucial to understand, first of all, this period, the surge of the civil society in its best and pure form. So that's a time where a lot of new initiatives and groups of people, professional groups, social groups, just the activists started to form different communities. And in essence, it was not the movement of the classical NGOs who were not that present at the moment, but actually the very root movement from different people who started different initiatives. And despite all these pressures, what is probably the most crucial point and why we are still here, that people actually have not given up, that the resistance and the fight for democracy, for freedom continues. Probably the most outspoken and vivid image of that is the day of the war, when the war started on the 24th of February. Again, hundreds, thousands of people in Minsk and across the region went out to the street, this time to protest against the war, to say they do not support war, and they also want to return the sovereignty to Belarus, which territory was illegally used for the Russian troops to reside there. And that was a start or a new fresh start for the anti-war movement, which again united and mobilized a lot of people, a lot of different groups, actually, those who have not been previously involved in the protest, a lot of Lukashenko supporters who now absolutely realize that we have never agreed to the war. And that's given this new rise to this partisan movements, the cyber partisans, the sabotage. There are these railway partisans, people who block the railways, and many different versions where people still very actively engaged in anything to prevent that war and to return the sovereignty to Belarus. I will stop here and give the floor to my colleagues and friends to talk about more what the work has been and how does it look like to work with initiative and with people in Belarus and outside Belarus. And then I hope we'll have time for the discussion.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Yeah. We have a PowerPoint for this. Yeah, me and Dasha, we represent honest people.
I'm not just.
That's fine. So this one, perfect. You represent honest people, and you already have heard. Some of you have heard yesterday from Elena, our colleague, that actually we are working on the same issues. We were founded as an organization to fight electoral frauds in Belarus. And we felt a lot of similarities when it comes to the problems we are trying to solve, including the vote buying, administrative resources, the unequal access to media. But also there are a lot of differences, like the crucial differences that Belarus and Russia nowadays face when it comes to democratic elections. The crucial thing that the elections in Belarus are not free and fair, not only because all of the things I mentioned, but also because the alternative candidates are being arrested and the votes are simply not counted. That the state of affair we appeared at in May 2020, when there was clear that there is a spirit of change in Belarusian society, when there are alternative candidates, when there is a strong and clear demand for changes. But the problem is that we knew that our votes are not going to be counted if we would not do anything with this. That's how vote count in Belarus look like. The problem that the election commission's members, they all are loyal to the regime. The majority of them are secondary school teachers that they're selected not randomly, but there are those teachers who express their loyalty to the regime. How we know right now, they pass through a lot of checks done by KGB that they are loyal enough not to unfollow the numbers that are set to be drawn in the final protocols. The observers and the media can only see these sort of pictures, this black box during the vote count after the polls are closed, that something is happening on these tables. We put our votes and we just got the numbers we actually got. And that was the situation in May 2020. We knew that that's going to be like this if we would not do anything with this. So that's what the point where Honest People, our community at that time, was founded, with the only idea that we need to make our best to bring the fairness of the elections to Belarus. on this context of the overall mobilization of the society. We didn't do much. We just read electoral code promptly and carefully, and realized that actually that's the right of every citizen in Belarus to actually run and become an election commission member. That's where our campaign started. That was the same name of the campaign as the name of our movement, our organization. We just read the electoral code. We made the indie minimalistic web page where we just put the tips, the procedure, how to become the member of election commissions. We also prepared the draft for this application, also put some instructions how to collect the signatures, because you need to get 10 signatures in order to become the member of election commissions. So that was this innovative, let's say, platform, but in fact, very simple one. And we started with this simple educational campaign. When we explain complicated things written in the electoral code, we explained it in the very simple, simplistic way that everyone could understand. The campaign got viral, and in fact, we had almost 3,000 of applicants, of Belarusian citizens who applied, who followed the full procedure and applied to become this present election commission member, with the will to honestly count the votes during the elections. How the regime reacted, we know only about the 11 random cases when this application were accepted by these local authorities. That's actually the part of the vertical of Lukashenko's regime. Most of them were actually abroad in the embassies. I mean, most of them 11s, but also we had some random cases inside the country. So that was the outcome. But of course, it followed by this resentment, the feeling of being fooled by these 2,800 people who actually followed the procedure, did everything right, but were not, by any reason, were not accepted to these election commissions. And that's where the game of cat and mouse started, where us being the smart, innovative, just following the rules, actually following the electoral code, reading it and explaining it to the public, and the government who reacts on this just I don't know, with restrictive measures, without this sort of responses when our efforts were not accepted. Yeah, then we realized that we could do something else as well. That's not only about this election commissions member. If we are not inside the commissions anymore, that was already clear in the beginning of June 2020. We could do something else as well. Our idea was to cover every single polling station in Belarus with the independent observer. So if we are not inside the commission, at least we could observe it, how fair they count these votes. We also come up with a simple platform. There was actually the map, because we want people not to compete with each other, not to be on the same polling station, but just to cover more or less homogeneously the whole, all the polling, almost 6,000 polling stations in Belarus, more or less equally, to have at least one observer at every independent observer at every polling station. So we created this map. It's again like we communicated the procedures. We prepared the draft for application, and we supported this with the campaign. Honest people at that time, like now as well, they're not people from politics or NGO sector. Most of them are people from businesses, from marketing, they all had at the same time had their own jobs, but still they contributed with all of them their knowledge, expertise to this marketing communication. Our videos got viral. We got almost 1 million views on YouTube for 10 million population of Belarus. Our independent media started to write about us, and because the campaign got viral. What we got? We got 10,100 citizens who actually became independent observer during the elections. We did not cover every single station because the majority of them were still in Minsk because the population is more proactive over there. Yeah, but regime, of course, saw the danger in our actions, and what they did, they said that due to coronavirus, that was still the pandemic at that time, and it was ignored by Belarusian government before, but during the election day, for the first time, they came up that they actually COVID exists, and COVID influences our lives, and they decided to restrict and limit the number of observers that could be inside the polling stations to 5. Only 5 observers could be inside, and no matter how many could be outside the polling station. Of course, all of the observers that were inside the polling station at that time, they were pro-governmental. They were not independent observers. They were just fake. There was a list with already filled in fake observers from these schools who just filled the places and didn't let independent observers to observe it. And the pictures, like in the bottom and on the left, actually me, who is observing at my own school, but outside the school on the bench, trying to observe how the elections are going, how the votes are counted. So that was the reaction of the regime. Yeah, and this cat and mouse play, we didn't stop. We decided that we also need to work with the voters, and that's where the very famous campaign and platform got created. The Golos, the same name for voice, it's in English, the same name as the Russian voice. But the idea of our platform was to alternatively count the votes. If they would not count fairly by the members of the commissions, at least we could do something to count it alternatively and independently. So there was a platform, the very simple one, Telegram and Viber bots, where everyone could register with their phone number, Belarusian phone number, and submit their vote in order to finally compare the results with the one that were reported by the regime. We also came up with these symbols, the white bands, and did alternative ways of communication. We used the leaflets, we used the posters in order to reach as many people as possible. That was the election day. Also want to say that how the regime reacted on this. They again came up with the COVID measures and decided not to put the curtains on the electoral, how it's called, the box cabins, because when you touch it, it's gonna spread spread the COVID. The idea was that the part of this Golos and Honest People and Zubur idea was to make a photo of the ballot in order to prove it, finally, to show how many ballots for Tsikhanouskaya or for other alternative candidates we have, and compare it with the official results. But the regime came up with this misleading claims that the making photos inside the polling station is not, they came up with it's not recommended inside so it's not restricted but not recommended inside the polling station, and they took off these curtains in order to put pressure to see what people are doing inside this cabins. Yeah, but we also we reacted again, and we thought that it would be nice to put some pressure on these election commissions members to come at the same time, to make the big lines, big queues during the election days. So it was the 2 p.m. During the election days, and you can see on the right bottom that there's a member of election commission that actually is leaving the premises after the election day, not through the main door where all of them people are waiting for the results, but just exiling through the window. That's also got very viral. And the idea was to also our mission and mission of our partners Golos and Zubur, to prepare the reports based on the reports of independent observers, based on the data we collected through Golos, and we got more than 1 million of votes and more than 500,000 photocopies, votes, actually the ballots, with the proof that they voted for Tsikhanouskaya or other candidates. And we prepared the report that actually proved that the elections were rigged and the results were falsified, was on the absolute numbers, because we had enough of Golos, of the votes in Golos, that we could prove that on many polling stations there are more numbers, more ballots in Golos than they actually reported by the official protocol. And also in in statistical terms, when we just analyze and extrapolate the numbers of several polling stations, we had the data on to the whole population of Belarus. Go on.
Yeah, and at that moment to prepare this report, part of our core team of honest people had to leave Belarus just because we need internet and a kind of safe office where KGB cannot go and take our laptops. And for that, we were not able to stay in Belarus. We had to go to Ukraine to work. And this week before the election, for this week, we went to Kyiv. And the day when we were leaving the country, our leader was arrested. Ilya Malakhouski, he is still in prison for 2 years already without no criminal case on him. He's just in prison and nobody knows what's going on. And a few days later, after Ilya was arrested and we were in Kyiv, on Belarusian state TV, there were such news. It's written on the dark side here, where honest people, our team, was like terroristic organization who kind of prepared terror acts in Belarus. And at that moment, we understood that probably we're not gonna go back home, and we just need to stay in Kyiv for some more time. And yep, and at that moment, it was all this emotional uplift in the society, and our work was done already because we prepared this report, but we understood that we cannot stop on this. We need to move further. We need to do something. And we understood that the point is that the voting day, it's only a point, but the most important are the processes between these elections. And we need to act somehow during these terms between election campaigns. And what we decided to do is to, in a direct or indirect way, prepare for engaging people in future election campaigns and through civic education. Just to work with activists from different social groups and to wait for this window of opportunity which may appear one day. And in that moment, we create a view of our program with different social groups, as I said. Program, it means a technical platform, usually it's chatbot and anonymous and safe chats in messengers for people in this community can communicate safely, and engagement communicational campaigns. And through these campaigns, we're trying to educate people to tell about their rights, about their possibility in legal way to somehow interact with the government, and just to involve them into the civic activism, because it's very difficult to work with auditory between these election campaigns, and you need somehow to interact with them. So that we created these programs for factory workers, for civil servants, for students and lecturers, for those who suffered from repressions, and for activists. I'll just be very quick with this project. In each project, we started from factory workers. We're trying to organize a national strike. We didn't succeed, actually. Okay, we succeed because there were about 6,000 people who supported the strike, but government reacted with a huge level of repressions. So in this way, we didn't succeed. Afterwards, civil servants, dialogue with people, and honest university with students. And you can see the numbers here. In dialogue, we have more than 3,000 of government officials who are communicating with us through our chatbot. And in honest university, there are more about 2,000 of people, yeah, if I'm not mistaken. And in both of these projects, we plan our activities in a kind of campaigns because it's important for us, for activists and for team of honest people, to divide these activities into small parts, because everybody understands that it's not about quick changes in Belarus, and we need to see the small results, the small victories, these KPIs that we set for ourselves. So we have a different kind of campaigns in each project. Mutual Emergency Aid is a P2P platform for financial help to those who suffered from repressions. And Pyramid Hub and Open Good are projects for activists, urban activists who trying to change something inside the country. And with this project, we were working for a year, and as you've seen, all of them are about civic activism and education, but the point is that activism in Belarus is a simple usage of your rights. This is what we call activism. But even during this year, when there were no people on the street and so on, the level of repressions became even higher and higher. And here you see some of the numbers. And of course, the society is afraid, society is tired of what's going on. And today, we're in the situation when this simple activism, usage of your rights, for NGO, it's activism, and for government, it's terrorism or extremism. And in this situation, we came to the next election campaign, which was this year, to the referendum. And here I give the photo to Tsimafei, probably.
Actually, that's a cool photo. I will just comment because it's not obvious. You see from the window, that's where how creative people get, for prohibition of using the national symbolics. So that's an LG televisor package box. Which is, you see, it's white, red, white. So technically it's not a flag, it's just a box. So people will start to use things like that, but also for that you will have probably the Kubopik or Silovik just knocking out your door and grabbing you to the police and arresting you for 15 days for the illegal, how's it called? The illegal picketing or illegal actions, unsanctioned action.
Yeah, it's a great example of the level of repressions, which we seen in August 2020 when there are hundreds, thousands of people on the streets, and now when you have just a box in your window and you still can be arrested for this.
Yeah, the guy was arrested actually. He got 15 days of prison, the guy who put the box in his balcony. That's the situation right now. We don't have NGOs inside the countries. We don't have media. Independent media inside the country, and they not only don't exist, they're illegal. It means that even if they are in exile right now and continue their operation, people who are following these medias, for example, they are subscribed for the Telegram channel of independent media or some Instagram channel, and this phone is checked by KGB or by the police randomly. So this person who is following it, he's under or she's under the administrative procedure already, and they face up to 15 days in the prison just for following the news, not even sharing it. And our organization is extremist as well right now. That's the way how we reached to the last electoral campaign, the fake electoral campaign called referendum. Lukashenko started to organize a constitutional referendum in February 2022. There was not inclusive dialogue anyhow, the attempt of civil society to be the part of this process, and they offer our own draft of constitution, how the relations between the society and government should be established. They were refused. Moreover, they were criminalized because they attempt to send the drafts or send the comments and amendments on the constitution. People went for the arrest for this as well. But still, we wanted to use this campaign as again a legal way to demonstrate that we still disagree with the regime of Lukashenko. So we mobilized people to still go to this fake referendum, but to use their ballots as the protest vote, just to invalidate it with the crosses for and for no, because most of the old constitution and the constitutions offered by Lukashenko, they do not represent the will of Belarusian people. So we decided that that's going to be a protest vote. Yeah, and we faced this day, 27th of February. It was 3 days after the Russian invasion to Ukraine started. And our campaign that started like 4 months before the referendum, of course, was changed completely because of the war. And we used this opportunity of legally gathering at least in front of the polling station, as a protest against the war and against the participation of Belarus in Russian invasion against Ukraine. Yeah, and Sasha already mentioned that for the first time since October 2020, I mean, for the first time this year, it happened when the Belarusians were again at the streets protesting, and of course, they got arrested. We got almost 1,000 arrests during this day for expressing the disagreement with the war. That's it from my side. Sorry for taking.
Thank you, guys. We are smoothly shifting to the different presentation, and could you please switch that? And while we're switching, just well, not an anecdote, but a real life story about this campaign, for instance, and using the innovative methods and technology. So what was done for this campaign, the major single piece was actually using the two crosses everywhere. So what part of this campaign was actually with the help of cyber partisans, so we generally speaking, the movement, we wrote an email to the official representatives in the schools, which was sent to the official emails to many school members and teachers with the instruction that because that's how it operates in Belarus, that you always have the instructions from the top-down government. If you're a school teacher, you will get this every week. Or, the local authority says to do this, to do this. We did the same. We said, hey guys, there's a referendum, those opposition, they want to do something. You have to say no to that opposition, and please go outside and make a picture with these signs. And they did it. The next week, we had dozens of hundreds of teachers making this official publication to oppose the opposition. But actually what they did, they exactly reproduced the very symbolics that was designed actually to say no to referendum. So that's about using the methods, which is, sometimes we operate the same methods as the regime does. So if they all believe so much in the authority and the legal letters and the orders, that's what sometimes our movement does.
So, hello everybody. My name is Mike Ananyin. I'm from initiative, I would say community of people from different groups, organizations, and initiatives. We call ourselves meta-Belarus from two sides. One is meta from Belarusian language means goal. And our goal is to have free country, a successful country, democratic by the design. And another one is a Greek explanation of meta that is like about. So it's about Belarus itself. And I was thinking how to tell the story, how to show the presentation. And recently tonight, I just woke up with the intention, I need to make a difference. So sorry for the design. It's awful, but I will tell you my story, how it is. So here you can see that meta-Belarus right now covering a lot of different horizontal connections is just small list of different groups participating in our movement. That's actually participating in a specific project regarding digital passports prototypes that we are working on. And we started in 2020, right after the elections. So I'm a solution architect in IT and a consultant. So I came to this problem from the point of view, how can we use and what kind of technologies can we use in order to solve this problem and make it resistible to the same situation, to learn the lesson. So here you can see the problem why Belarus is this, right? Because we have Lukashenko who is powering all the branches of the power. And you don't see civil society here, because there is no civil society. And you can ask any Belarusian person, you can ask any researcher, he would say, there is no civil society, because actually Lukashenko built a vertical of power, where all the branches are mixed with each other, and he is kind of like a foundation of everything. So is a gravestone, and the civil society is buried upon it, under it. So we start to think, how can we fix it, right? What kind of tools and technologies can we use? And then for 1 year, we were designing, prototyping, researching, and we found several cool technologies like digital voting, digital identification system, verification system, coordination, education, all these different tools and methods we found, and we're like, okay, now we're ready to go and to test it. So we went to office of Tsikhanouskaya because she's a leader of the Russian people. She's kind of took a great responsibility, a great role of being the face of the Russian people. And we came to her, and for 1 year we were advocating about the digital tools, because as you heard, it's impossible to build democracy inside of Belarus. It's just impossible. The system is bad. And anybody who will try will get out of prison or to exile. So we were advocating that we can use digital tools in order to rebuild a state. So here you can see that right now we have office and like another political power, I just like use office as an example, who are trying to rebuild it. And the first stuff is to rebuild media, right? To keep the agenda, to tell the world and to the Russian people about the situation and about what is happening. And but it is still happening in the same way. And right now, the current plan is to, while the office has media, right, to use Estonian electronic government to build a digital state, right, and then like to have a digital state in exile that can fix the problem. So, but as you can see, it's still the same old structure, right? There is no possibility right now, there is no option that any closed, exclusive group of people can build or use a state as it is right now to liberate people, because it will always drive to the same way. The Russian people, I used to have vertical, I used to have that power in this coming from like, from someone. So instead of it, we should rebuild digital society. We should make it as a foundation of our country. And right now we can't operate in the reality, right, of life. So we are scattered over the world. We are distributed everywhere in different countries, even inside of Belarus, but still in digital field, acting together as a horizontal structure. And my initiative is a proof of it. So using digital civil society as a foundation, we can rebuild these branches of the power. And there are tools for it. So for the media, decentralized publishing system that is providing medias with real freedom and independent source of income. So they can do investigations, they can publish without taking a charge or an order or a task from anybody else. Legislature system that allows people using open space technologies and dispute resolution systems, create new legislation, create new agreements between people, or at least engage into the conversation, right, and start to find some common ground. The executive branch using decentralized autonomous organization and decentralized voting, allowing people horizontally manage huge amounts of funds. All these technologies exist. And even judicial branch already exists, decentralized court, decentralized dispute resolution systems. It's impossible. Right now, technology is providing everything. But we are still missing this crucial cornerstone of any state. And I think this problem is about every country, right? Even like here, in this country, we also have like, you have the same problem, right? Where like the vertical is building and the government is controlling everything. So to fix it, we have to go back to the basics. We have to use network of trust, build through the handshake, through communication between different organization initiatives. We can like use the identification technology that actually right now is developing and implementing inside of the Europe, self-sovereign identities, where people are in charge of their own data, where people are managing and controlling who will use and how and for what reasons will use this data. And establishing this network of trust with each other, we can actually start to build this democratic by design system. Because if we are speaking about human-oriented, human-centered approach, people are in the center. People are foundation of the state. So, and one thing that is crucial for this development should be open source. And I'm not speaking about IT, I'm speaking about everything, even like development of the civil society. Open, inclusive dialogue, inclusive tools to contribute. Anyone, even it's like complete opposition. For example, I use the example of the office of Tsikhanouskaya right now, having an opposition to Alexandra, who is representative of the office. And this is normal. This is democratic. So having here this conversation, we already set up in a democratic process. So, and like, in the end, what we will have this digital civil society platform as aggregation tool to aggregate political capital. And that's what we need as Belarusian people, to get this political capital and to show it to Ukraine, for example, to finally get agreement with the Ukrainian government, so we can actually build our own army there, right? We can take care of our Belarusian people that are there as well, suffering from the war. We can use gain capital, like financial capital, in order to push more this media agenda, and etc., etc. And then in this aggregated political capital, we can run elections, campaigns. We can start to use and deliver to the people different ideologies, different systems, different opinions, but still be united as a civil society. And to sum up, this digital civil society, right, based being horizontal as it is right now, with horizontal connections and with tools that embrace this horizontal structure and embrace the freedom and individuality of every human and every organization, will allow us to rebuild state from the scratch, to rebuild all the institutions and make them responsible, make them truly democratic, because they will be not even focused, they will be based on our own values, human rights. And so the new system that will come out of it, it will be truly democratic. Maybe the name will be different. We spoke with some people about it, right? The future of democracy. But what is essential and crucial for us, European people, is to have this human-centric approach, where we are the center of the picture. So, and the methodology of it is not new, right? I might speak about some future things, but actually philosophers already produced it. Like United States, they were built using the philosophy, right? They were built using the methodologies. People get together and created rules. By the rules they created on the country and on the economy. And United States is the greatest example of it. So we can go through this process again right now. And one of the creators of Belarusian methodology to create a state, and a digital state even, is Vladimir Matskevich, who is actually imprisoned right now, philosopher sitting in prison. Why? Because he's speaking the truth. We are people who can build the new state that will help us to fight the climate change, to develop culture, education, science, to be humankind as we are. So, and this is it. If you want to support us, you can take the contacts, and warmly welcome to ask your questions.
Thank you. I didn't say anything about the time, just not to be in a position to your presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, actually, good on time. We still have 5 minutes to take your questions, and then everybody's still here. We'll be happy to talk to you later in the coffee break. We'd be happy actually to talk to you and answer your questions. Again, if we're back to the topic and talking about the strategies of engaging people, of mobilizing people, of building the civil society in a situation where it's almost impossible to do anything inside of the country. So maybe we could also have some questions and topics there. Many examples show that basically the strategy is always running one step ahead. The regime prohibits something, we come up with something, regime prohibits it, then we come from different angle. So it's this evil dance, basically, with them stepping on our feet, but then we always find a way to twist it. I saw the hand there. Yes, please. Yes, you're a wonderful lady. Yes. Starting that we don't have conversation that really next question. Related question. One more question. The thing is, that came up with the accessibility. So when you say people, can this idea, this project, this energy appeal to everyone, or who are do you have any specific target groups? Do you have any thresholds? Do you see any obstacles?
to roll out this? Obviously, the digital domain is for lots of people, but not for everyone. So how do you deal with this? Are you planning to overcome this? What's your plan? Thank you.
Yeah, okay. So the implementing digital tools is a very difficult task currently, right? And if you're implementing something for social or for environment, it's even more complicated. But the research we made appeared to be that in Belarus, the main user group of digital tools are women aged from like 30 to 45, something like this. Women who are taking care of the family, who are standing in the kitchen, who are speaking with other people, or like saying to the husband, hey, go like fix this stuff, and etc., etc. People who can deliver the message, who can like deliver. If it's working, if it's giving some like result, yes, it will be delivered. Then the adoption pain will be like overcome through this. And as well, we have another problems, economical problems, right? Cybersecurity problems that also related to the subject. And these problems can be overcome like we designing tools that like preserving the security and privacy of the people. So people are not giving any data, personal data to the internet. They keep them locally. And also economic incentives, right? So there are some development and still research, right, and a testing phase where we're developing micro-stimulation for people, just like some $1, $10 to get the account, you know, just like to start vote, to see how it's working and provide a feedback, right? So people will feel that they like, it's important job to educate, to study this stuff. So our initial target group obviously are the expats all over the world, because are the people who are suffering the most from the war right now. Officially, Belarus is an ally of Russia, so officially, if I'm going with my passport to European pro-governmental bureaucratic institution, right, to receive a residency permit or open a bank account, I will show the passport and they will deny me because I have Belarusian passport. Right, so these people having these troubles, they are aiming for any tools that can fix them, right? And then after that, we will go to activists in Belarus who are using the tools to protect themselves and to continue coordinate. We have really wide network of the people. We constantly receiving feedback from them, and we see that people are ready to overcome the adoption pain. They just need something useful and working tools. Unfortunately, meta-Belarus never received any financing, right? We were very careful about it because we didn't know who to trust and we didn't know how to go there. We're like IT people trying to build something social, right? Without thinking of the commercial, I would say, philosophy of it, not like extracting profit, but to delivering value for the people. So it took longer time, but right now we have it. And we are like already testing and implementing the thing. So I believe that this year, next few months, we will like run out the prototype of the digital passports, and then like this year we will finally deliver all other things that people start to coordinate and vote and like distribute funding and start to build the institutions. So let's see. I have a very optimistic point of view on this.
Our time is running. I will briefly add to the topic of the target groups. So what's the last year and a half, and all of our social polls show that actually, in terms of just even delivering the message about anything from campaigns to the overall democratic narrative, we are still very good at reaching out to people who support change. We don't have actually challenges there. We know the channels, it's very clear communication for us. For all those again who support change, it does not necessarily mean that they support Tsikhanouskaya, but they want the change in the country, and that's still the major criteria for us. We're not in a presidential campaign election. We need people to support the democratic change in the country. So it's working well with the groups of people who actually there and say, yes, I want change, I want Lukashenko to go. The challenge comes when it's either a neutral audience or his active supporters. That's very hard. Because first of all, the sources of information, they still mostly consume information from state propaganda channels. That's very hard to compete with that. So the challenge lies there, and it's actually still to figure out. One way that has been working, I mean, the outreach has not been amazing, but it's been working, is actually some is that. So amazingly, in the 21st century, one of the major sources of information has become the printed newspapers. And there is this Samizdat initiative by Prosvet, who actually started printing and distributing newspapers, regional newspapers, all across the countries, producing the content, basically just printing the real news and the fair information, and delivering these newspapers very often to the households which otherwise would not have access to anything real. So that's one of the tools that is working right now, but it's still always for us. There is a lot of done in terms of the social media, and because a lot of passive people, neutral audience, or supporters of Lukashenko are actually very active and in social media, like at Malakhouski or Vkontakte. So now a lot of job is going to there. Actually, advertisement. That is, nobody wants to hear that, but actually in our fight, ads in this commercial ads is a very powerful tool, because that helps you to bring this wall of people not receiving your content. So that's how it's working now. We will see. It's always, a challenge and the way to try out new things and to see how can we reach out to the wide possible audience as possible. I believe our time is up. No?